Gunnison Copper is stepping into a key moment for U.S. copper supply. The company is already producing copper in Arizona and has just strengthened the case for its flagship Gunnison project with a newly updated preliminary economic assessment. Now, it comes as demand for domestic copper grows and the pipeline for new U.S. projects remains limited. Well, joining us is Craig Hallworth, Chief Financial Officer of Gunnison Copper. Craig, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Devan, it's so good to be here, and it's a beautiful day in Arizona. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, look, let's start with the big picture here, right, Craig? U.S. copper supply is getting a lot of attention at the moment. Talk to me about what you think the industry is looking like at the moment, and maybe perhaps just tell me where Gunnison fits into all of this.
Well, we've got a big problem in this country, Devan. There's a massive deficit. The amount of copper that we're producing is only about 50% of what the country needs, and that's based on the consumption of today. If you look ahead 1, 2, 3, 5 years, consumption is predicted to dramatically increase. And if you look at why, it's the usual things like building new homes, cars, the electrification of the country, but it's also some new categories of demand that are increasing like crazy. We've got data centers. We're seeing hundreds of billions of dollars being talked about for capital expenditures on data centers just this year. We're talking maybe $1 trillion or $2 trillion over the next couple of years.
Yep.
And if you think about what data centers are, they're really just dense clusters of copper. Those things have so much copper in there, tens of thousands of tons can go into those hyperscale data centers. So that's a whole new category. It's like a new category of infrastructure. We're seeing increasing demand. And then the next one is, something that people aren't talking about as much, but I think everyone's seen the headlines, is defense. Copper is actually the second most used metal in defense. And when you're talking about munitions, a lot of munitions are being needed right now. And copper is chief amongst those metals that are needed to make all those munitions. So we've got a massive deficit today. We're filling the deficit by importing foreign copper into the country. Mm-hmm. I think that we have enough copper production capacity in the country to help to close that deficit. But what we've got right now is a processing capacity problem. So that's what we're doing here, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in this interview, but that's what we're doing here with Gunnison Copper, is trying to demonstrate at the Johnson camp a new technology, Newton sulfide leaching, that could help to close that processing capacity deficit.
Okay. You're already producing copper in Arizona, right? From your perspective, how important is that proof point right now?
I think it's incredibly important. We're down to only 2 smelters remaining in this country. If you go back a couple decades, we had over 19 smelters. And if viewers don't know, smelters is how you essentially process sulfide copper from a copper concentrate into the finished product that's usable in the supply chain. So going from 19 to 2, that tells you all you need to know about the processing capacity. Now, there is new technology that is possible today, sulfide leaching. This is something that we're demonstrating at our Johnson camp. It's a technology that was invented by Rio Tinto, their Newton division. And we're very excited to show the country that this thing works. We've been producing copper from it from December 2025, and we're currently ramping that up. I think if we get to 1 and 2 years of sustained production with the new technology, that's going to give everyone a lot more confidence that we could see this technology rolling out to the next wave of sulfide ore projects here in the U.S.
And you want to see that rollout happen quicker than slower, right? You've secured government funding. What does that actually unlock for you, and how competitive is that process?
Well, we went to the Department of Energy back in late 2024. We applied for funding. We said, look, we're going to be restarting a mine. This will be the first mine restart to produce copper, which was considered a critical material for energy by the department. This will be the first new production in decades. And they said, that sounds very interesting. But what was sort of the icing on the cake for them was this Newton sulfide leach technology. Because if we could prove that this works, and we are proving it now, but if we can prove it over a sustained period, and if this can be rolled out in the next wave of projects to be constructed in the country, it's going to go a long way to closing that supply deficit, because there's a whole lot of ore that we're mining today. And that ore is being turned into concentrate. and it's being sent overseas for processing because we just don't have enough smelters. So we're already mining a lot of the ore that's necessary to fill that supply deficit. But again, the reason it's going overseas is a lack of processing capacity. So one of the answers could be to restart. There's one or two smelters that could be restarted in the country. Mm-hmm. New smelters could be constructed, or we could utilize this new technology that's extremely clean, extremely low emission, extremely low water and power usage, doesn't generate wet tailings, and roll that technology out instead. So I think that's going to be something very interesting. A lot of people are watching us all around the country.
Yeah. So you've just updated the preliminary economic assessment, right, Craig? Now, in simple terms, what changed and what stands out most in the economics?
So now we're moving on to talk about our Gunnison flagship project.
Yeah.
This is our big copper project that we're advancing. Like you said, we just released a brand new study. It's called a preliminary economic assessment, a 43-101 technical report. And we were able to increase the valuation materially from the previous report. We increased the valuation by almost $700 million to a new total of $2 billion US, and that's a net present value after tax. So this is a substantial project. It's going to produce finished copper at the site using SXEW technology. This is something that's been around for decades. We're actually using it to produce finished copper currently at the Johnson camp. And it's going to produce up to about 11% of the country's current refined copper production from ore. So it's got the scale that this country needs to move forward. And we are very excited to increase the valuation by so much. Now, people are probably saying, how did you do that? How did you increase the valuation so much? And there was a lot of different reasons, but the biggest one is that we've now included our satellite deposit, Strong and Harris. This is a deposit. It's about 2 miles from the processing plant, and it's got a very, very high grade of copper. We're talking about a 0.85% total copper grade. And if you look at some of the big open pits being mined in Arizona today, that's about triple the grade that they're mining in Arizona today. So including this into the project added about $200 million to the net present value.
Yeah. It's interesting you're talking about scale because investors often use that word and look at that very closely. What else can you tell us?
Look, the important part is that we've greatly increased the total metal production that's going to come out of this project. Yeah. In the previous study, over the life of the mine, we were going to produce 2.7 billion pounds of copper. That would have been an 18-year mine life. And now with improvements to the project, such as including the Strong and Harris deposit, as well as increasing the size of the main pit, we're going to produce 3.2 billion pounds. So that's a 500 million pound increase, and the mine life has gone up by several years. So we're talking about real improvements, real increases in the metal produced, and we've been able to keep our all-in sustaining cash cost very competitive. Yeah. We're talking about a $2.06 all-in sustaining cash cost per pound, which puts us globally, not just in the United States, but globally in the lower half of the cost curve. So it's a good low-cost mine. It's got scale, and we've increased the total production over the whole life. Mm.
And then, Craig, finally, what's the one milestone this year that really determines how far and how fast this project moves?
I'd ask viewers to follow us at GunnisonCopper.com, look at our news releases. We're going to be doing a lot of news releases very soon about our pre-feasibility study. This is the next step for the Gunnison Copper Project. We're going to be advancing the engineering. We're going to be doing a lot of metallurgical testing, getting a lot more data on the metallurgical testing. We'll be increasing the resource up to a reserve. That's increasing the confidence in the ore body. And most importantly, we're going to be amending the permits. Yep. So because of the history of this project, there was some mining done on it a few years back. We're actually fully permitted today to mine this thing. So this is not like a new project that needs all new permits. We're talking about permit amendments, and that's a lot more straightforward. And that's something we're going to be doing in conjunction with the PFS study. And we expect to complete that study and those permit amendments all within about 24 months. But investors who are new to the stock or hold a position or increasing their position today, they can look forward to a lot of milestones, a lot of news releases and catalysts as we come to market with the results of the PFS study, because we're not going to be waiting till the end of 2 years and then do a big bang and tell everyone all about it. As we progress all of these things I just said, we'll be coming to the market to let everyone know.
Well, thanks very much indeed. We certainly will keep our eye on it, Craig. Craig Hallworth is the Chief Financial Officer at Gunnison Copper.